Paris, okay? And in the Treaty of Paris, basically Spain has to give up all this territory, and the United States formally becomes an empire with all these new territories. Again, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. So those four right there. Now, after that, there's a couple more things that you guys should probably know. First of all, one of the stipulations in the Treaty of Paris is that the United States, is that Cuba is now going to be independent. Well, that's 1898. But guess what happens? You'll never guess. Okay, so 1903, a U.S. senator by the last name of Platt, P-L-A-T-T. I'm going to write that down, Platt, comes up with an amendment that basically says this: if Cuba is going to be our possession, we have the right, as the United States, to intervene in Cuba if and when we want to. Let me repeat that. How is that letting Cuba be independent? Oh, I don't know. Let's think through these words. We're going to intervene in Cuba whenever we want to. If it doesn't look like they're doing essentially what we want, and also Cuba has to give up a little chunk of their territory so that America can have access to it, and we're going to use it as a prison center. Does anybody know what that prison center is? Oh, you guys are good. Guantanamo Bay. Obama's still trying to close it. It's still open, man. Still got some terrorists up in there. So, America doesn't really let Cuba be independent, and the reason I bring this up is because it's huge. It shows kind of, and why doesn't America want that to happen? Why don't they want Cuba to be independent? Why don't they want Hawaii to be really independent? Yes, sir.
Loss of markets, loss of money.
Exactly right. Smoking gun, twirl it around, stick it back in the holster. That's it right there. It's all about money. And that's why America does what it does. The Philippines is the next part here. Now, you'll notice I'm just kind of talking. It's always important if you don't have something on the PowerPoint to kind of go through. The Philippines is another country that America is struggling about what to do with. Do we let them be independent, like Cuba? The answer is no. But they want independence. What the United States does in Cuba, or excuse me, the Philippines, is pretty bad. They tell the Philippines, there's a leader there by the name of Emilio Aguinaldo. I can write his name down. Emilio Aguinaldo basically is a guy who's a freedom fighter. And Spain has been, you know, of course, when Spain was running Philippines, they weren't exactly the greatest foreign power either to the Philippine people. The United States says to Emilio Aguinaldo, dude, if you help us beat the Spanish, we're going to give you guys your freedom. And Emilio Aguinaldo's like, awesome. Cool. Sounds good. But where do I sign? You know what I mean? Signs on the dotted line. Anyways, the Spanish-American War happens. Not soon after that, 1 year later, the Americans start sending in more and more and more and more troops. And Emilio Aguinaldo's like, what's up, man? Am I being punked or what? Well, that's not exactly what he said, but you know what I mean. He's like, what are you guys doing here? I thought we were going to be independent. Well, things have changed.
Funny thing about that.
Yeah, funny thing about that, you know. Yeah. So what the United States goes in, yeah, they go in and the Filipinos don't like it. And so there is a war that erupts. This war is very bloody. It lasts from 1899 to 1902. 20,000 Filipinos are going to die. 4,000 Americans are going to die. And it is one of the ugliest wars. The United States does some really horrible things in the Philippines. We're talking about massacring villages of people. We're talking about mass graves. The United States did some atrocious things. And the news gets out that this is happening. And so you've got various people in the United States that are saying, you know what, this is bad. And you have actually this organization that comes out right after this. I'm going to write it down. It's called the American Imperialist League. And the American Imperialist League is basically an organization of all-stars, of essentially writers, actors, people like Mark Twain, you know. Even Andrew Carnegie's part of this organization. William Jennings Bryan is even part of this, you know, presidential candidate. And what they're saying is like, look, if we're going to be an empire, we got to be a good empire. We're not using our power for good, we're using our power for bad. And that is not really what America should be about, because if we do that, how's that going to make us look? And it's already making us look bad. Okay? Now, all of this is to say that throughout the history of the United States, sometimes America does things that are questionable. You could go to any event in the history of America's imperialism and foreign policy. You could go to Panama in 1908 when America builds the Panama Canal by inciting a revolution, by paying a bunch of people to incite a revolution in Panama so that we can get in there and build a canal. You could point to some of the other things we've done, where the United States invades Mexico in 1916. The United States invades Latin American countries over 30 times in the 20th century, okay? Over 30 times. Why? Various reasons. Some of it's money, some of it's because we have a Cold War going on after World War II, which we'll get to. But this is just starting this discussion about what's the nature of America's power. Is American power used for good? Is it used for bad? I don't know. You have to be the judge by reading your book and studying your brains out. Which brings us to today's quiz. So if you would please put away all material except the back side of your Scantron. And you probably need a pencil. Yes, you will.